USA Today bestselling author Jennifer Youngblood. Thanks for joining me today. I've received some questions from you guys, and I thought I would take some time to answer them and also talk a little bit about my writing process.
Does it work to go from writing romantic suspense novels to writing rom-coms?
Well, that's a really hard question. I think it's worked because I was able to finish the books. One thing that I have realized that it doesn't matter if you're writing rom-coms, it doesn't matter if you're writing suspense. You always have to keep the tension on the page. And there always has to be an element of the unexpected. There has to be something to keep the reader going. And so really, whether you're writing like a true suspense or a rom-com, I found that the principles are kind of similar. I'm usually holding something back. There's usually something that's going to happen that the character doesn't expect. Hopefully the reader doesn't expect. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to be funny. I think I'm funny, and it just makes my day when I've actually gotten reviews where people said, "Oh my goodness, this was so hilarious," and then I tell my husband and I say, "Hey, people think I'm funny," and he's like, "You're not funny," and I'm like, "Well, I think I'm funny." So when I read my own rom-coms, I laugh because I think it's really funny, but I guess the reader will have to be the final determiner, right?
What are some of the challenges of writing mainstream while maintaining your values and inspiring goodness?
Well, I think for me, I write something that I would want to read and something that I want to feel proud of. And I remember going to a church function, and one of the ladies pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I heard you write romance, and are you kind of embarrassed about what you write?" And I said, "Well, no, because they're clean and inspirational." And so that's something that is very important to me personally. And so it's something that I have held to and something that I plan to continue to hold to. I have gotten reviews before where people, just occasionally, maybe people will pick up my book and discover it and not really realize that it's Christian fiction. And so I have gotten reviews before where, they would say, "Well, yeah, this was okay. It just wasn't spicy enough for me." And I'm like, okay, well, that just obviously they weren't my target audience. But mainly, I write what I love to read, and so that's kind of how I came about writing clean and inspirational romance.
Okay, I'll say a word or phrase, and let's have you respond with the first thing that comes to your mind from one of your characters or books. The first word is sassy.
Well, I would have to say Albany from Cold Feet because she's very, very sassy and she always has something to say to everyone.
Okay, ready? Here's another one. Good looking hunk.
Okay, my husband would say, "Oh, she's just writing about me every story." And I guess I would have to say, oh, one of my favorite heroes is from Burned, and his name is Sean. And I loved his character, and I loved that he was so witty and a little bit sarcastic.
So, are these characters written after your husband?
Maybe pieces. How about that? Pieces of him are probably in a lot of my characters.
Here's another one. Difficult divas.
Okay, well, the one that comes to mind is One Perfect Day. And she is a big diva. She runs an art gallery and she gives the main character grief. Yeah. And so that's kind of the first thing that comes into my mind. I've actually written a few divas, but she's the first one that comes to mind.
Do you have a favorite location for a plot or setting of your books?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I actually have a lot of those. Some of my favorite locations are in the South because you write what you know, and I know a lot about the South. Some of my favorite places are California. I really love California and love lots of parts of California and even Northern California. And so I've written some there. One of my favorite spots to set a book is Carmel by the Sea in California. I love it. Another one is Hawaii. I actually went to BYU in Hawaii when I was right out of high school, and fell in love with that area. I fell in love with the culture and the people. And so I have actually set quite a few novels there. In fact, I have a Hawaii Billionaire series that's set there. And when I write about that, it's like I'm going home, because I've always said that Hawaii was like my home away from home. And so I actually really enjoy writing about that, because I really am revisiting all of that time in that area in my memory. One of my other favorite locations is Italy. Italy has always been one of my bucket list items. And so I went with my family a few years ago, and it exceeded my expectations. It was incredibly amazing. And so I've written a couple of novels and set them there. One is A Sliver of Doubt, which is the romantic suspense. It's part of the Honeysuckle Island series. And then the other one is from my comfort romance series. And so it's a little bit different. It's almost like a quasi rom-com, a cross between a drama and a rom-com. So I've really enjoyed Italy too.
What is it like writing swoon-worthy scenes, and where do you draw the line while keeping the interest?
Well, actually, I think that when you do a clean and inspirational romance, you have still a lot of the physical elements, and that's a very big part of it. The attraction has to be there. My characters kiss, and they feel all of those amazing reactions and things. But it also involves emotions and commitment. And so I think that's kind of something that differentiates. I'm really careful about kind of just leaving it at the kissing. That's pretty much what I do.
Your characters often face tough moral decisions in challenging situations. What inspires these dilemmas, and how do you decide where those choices will take your characters?
Well, of course, a novel is only as good as the conflict. And so when I kind of start writing my characters, they have external conflicts, but they also have internal conflicts. And the internal conflicts are really what drive the story. And so I do a lot of praying. As I'm writing my books, I pray for inspiration, and I kind of think about the character and think about, well, what would they be going through? Are they going through a faith crisis? Are they strong in their faith? Are they waffling in their faith? And so those are things that I think about, and I try to instill these values into my books. Now, some of my characters are good, some of them are not so good. Some of my characters have had rocky pasts, or maybe they've made mistakes and they're trying to correct those mistakes. What I try to do is I try to really get into the head of the character and let the characters drive the story rather than letting the plot drive the story. So sometimes I'm even surprised at the direction that the plot takes.
You've been writing for a long time, and it's clear you've developed some thick skin along the way. What's the funniest review or critique you've ever received? Can you share any memorable examples?
Well, I have had to develop very thick skin over the years. I have talked to different writers and friends, and some of them say they don't even read the reviews anymore, because sometimes they'll read one and it'll make them depressed for a week. And I always read mine. And one of the most notorious reviews that I've ever received was it was for one of my books called Promise Me Love. And someone put that they had tried to read it and they got like about a fourth of the way into it and it just made them want to vomit. And so I laugh and say that I hold the record, because when I talk to my writing friends, we talk about bad reviews and I say, oh, well, at least none of you have ever written anything that made someone want to vomit. So it has helped me to develop very, very thick skin. And I kind of think when I read a scathing review, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just go for a jog and blow off some steam, and then I'll start again tomorrow. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed answering your questions. If you have other questions that you would like to send me, you can email them at jennifer@jenniferyoungblood.com, or you can put them in the comments below this video. Thanks so much.